My brother said, "You've always expected this family to hand you everything." I let him finish. Then I looked at Dad and asked, "Do you remember what you promised me the night I gave up my half of Grandpa's house?" Dad went pale. Nobody at the dinner table said a word. My brother, Ryan, was still leaning back in his chair with that smug little smile he had worn for years. He thought he had finally cornered me. He had no idea what was coming. To understand why, you have to go back almost 8 years. When Grandpa died, he left his old house to my dad and me. It wasn't some huge mansion. It was a 2-story brick house outside Cleveland, Ohio, with a cracked driveway, a tiny backyard, and a garage that smelled permanently like motor oil. But it had belonged to Grandpa for nearly 50 years. Dad wanted to sell it immediately. I didn't. I had spent most of my childhood there. Grandpa taught me how to change a tire in that driveway. He showed me how to fix a leaking faucet. When my parents fought, I used to sit on the back porch with him until things calmed down. So when the lawyer told us Grandpa had divided the property equally between Dad and me, I was surprised. My dad was surprised too. My brother Ryan, however, was furious. He was 30 at the time, constantly switching jobs, drowning in credit card debt, and convinced the family owed him a better life. He told me I should do the mature thing and give up my half. I refused. Then one night, everything changed. Dad called me. His voice sounded exhausted. He told me Ryan had gotten into serious financial trouble. Creditors were calling. His car was about to be repossessed, and he was behind on rent. Dad wanted to sell Grandpa's house and use the money to rescue him. I told Dad I couldn't do that. That house was the last thing I had left from Grandpa. Dad went silent. Then he said something I never forgot. "If you give me your half," he said, "I promise you won't lose anything. I'll make sure you're taken care of. When Ryan gets back on his feet, I'll make things right. I'll give you your share back somehow." I asked him what that meant. He said, "It means I will never let you regret helping your brother." I believed him, so I signed away my half. The house sold for $286,000. After expenses, Dad walked away with a little over $140,000. Ryan got most of the money. I got nothing. Not even a thank you. For the next several years, I watched Ryan's life improve. He bought a new truck. Then he moved into a nicer apartment. Then he got married. Then he started a landscaping company. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs, paid off my student loans, and eventually bought a small house of my own. I never asked Dad for money. I never reminded him about his promise. I figured someday he would remember. He never did. Or at least, that's what I thought. Last Thanksgiving, Dad invited everyone over for dinner. Ryan showed up with his wife and 2 kids. I brought a pie. Everything was normal until Ryan started talking about money. He had recently bought another property and needed help covering the down payment. Dad told him he'd think about it. I stayed quiet. Then Ryan looked directly at me. "You know what your problem is?" he said. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. "You've always expected this family to hand you everything." The room went quiet. I stared at him. Ryan continued, "You got Grandpa's house. You got Dad's attention growing up. You always acted like you deserved more than everyone else." I slowly put my fork down. My mother looked uncomfortable. Ryan's wife stared at her plate. Dad said, "Ryan, that's enough." But Ryan wasn't finished. "You know what I think?" he said. "I think you've spent your whole life keeping score because you're jealous." I could have argued. I could have reminded him who gave up what. Instead, I looked at Dad. "Dad," I said quietly. He looked at me. "Do you remember what you promised me the night I gave up my half of Grandpa's house?" His face changed instantly. The color disappeared from it. Ryan stopped smiling. Dad swallowed. "What are you talking about?" I stared at him. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." My mother looked between us. "What promise?" Dad didn't answer, so I did. "I gave up my half of Grandpa's house because Dad told me he would make sure I never regretted helping Ryan." Ryan's face turned pale. His wife slowly looked at him. I continued. "The house sold for $286,000. Ryan got the money. I never asked for anything afterward, not once." Ryan suddenly interrupted. "That was years ago." "Yes," I said. "It was." He shook his head. "You gave it up willingly." "I did, and nobody forced you." "No." "Then why are you bringing it up now?" I smiled. "Because you just accused me of expecting this family to hand me everything." Nobody spoke. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I placed it on the table. Ryan stared at it. "What is that?" "The paperwork from Grandpa's house." Dad's eyes widened. "I kept copies." I opened the folder. "There's something else in here too." I pulled out an old handwritten note. Dad recognized it immediately. His handwriting. The room became completely silent. I read the note aloud. "I promise that if you give up your share of the house to help Ryan, I will make sure you are repaid and taken care of."